It's Movie Lover 120 here, and I'm here with episode 15 of my Halloween horror movie review series, and this movie is actually going to be, for surprisingly, a Marvel film. Well, it's not really, maybe not really a horror film, but it's somewhat horror elements in it, but it's a Marvel film for the movie that kicked off Marvel's career in the film industry and saved Marvel, saved the comic book industry, and that's for none other than Blade. Man, before things like Spider-Man, the X-Men, and Iron Man, and Batman, and well, you get the idea. The film that started all of that was none other than Blade. And this movie, and basically, Blade is a vampire hunter. So, the movie storyline is, in a world where vampires walk the earth, Blade has a goal. His goal is to rid the world of all vampire evil. When Blade witnesses a vampire bite Dr. Karen Jensen, he fights away the beast and takes Jensen back to his hideout. Here, alongside Abraham Whistler, Blade attempts to help heal Jensen. The vampire Quinn, who was attacked by Blade, reports back to his master, Deacon Frost, who is planning a huge surprise for the human population. Ooh, man. Here's all... System. This is what I call a perfect way to do a dark, R-rated superhero movie. And one of the rare times where Marvel actually went R-rated and aimed for its content for adults. Because, well, and here's why. This movie is good. It was the first successful Marvel movie, leading pathway to more successful Marvel films like Spider-Man, X-Men, and all sorts of other Marvel adaptations. Of course, let's not forget that Marvel Cinematic Universe. Wesley Snipes did a great job of the title character, successful in bringing out the duality and inner demons of the character. And honestly, Wesley Snipes to me is the true Blade, and he always will be. I mean, maybe the MCU Blade might be good, but he definitely will not top Wesley Snipes. Chris Christopherson is good as well and brings out the tormented character Whistler to life with energy and sense of timing. Stephen Dorff provides the best acting in the film, and his chilling performance as Deacon Frost sends one of the best on-screen villains. Yes, and definitely one of the best Marvel villains, period. Next to villains like Dr. Octopus, Thanos, and Green Goblin, even. And even Magneto in the original X-Men trilogy, of course. But anyway, on to the next one. Some great cinematography. Very tense, dark atmosphere, works great in tune with the main character and story. Everything you ask for an action thriller. It's got plenty of blood, gore, twisted, disturbed bad guy, moments of humor, and most importantly, a very good storyline with plenty of twists. And a dramatic yet epic soundtrack which adds a lot of atmosphere of the movie. With highlights include like Pump Panel Instructions Confusion by New Order and Dealing with Roster by Junkie XL. I think the bad qualities is Ambush Wright's character as the leading lady, Dr. Karen, is very kind of a weak character. She's kind of very flat and lifeless, and of course, maybe it's 2 sequels. And yes, I do own the 2 sequels, guys. So, how would I think of the sequels? Well, there was a sequel called Blade 2, and it wasn't as good as the first one, but not a bad sequel for what it is, but I still prefer Blade 1 as the best Blade movie. But then, of course, it is definitely better than, of course, what is the atrocity, Blade Trinity. That movie is complete crap. That's all I'm gonna say. If there's one good thing about it, it's, yeah, sure, maybe Ryan Reynolds' character is kind of the only saving grace in the movie, but despite that, it definitely doesn't make it good. Doesn't mean it's a good film, though, and yeah, it's still complete crap. But that's my thoughts on the sequels. Just some other movies have tried. I think this is so far one of the few Marvel films that actually works with adding horror elements into it. I mean, there were 2 other attempts, like the Ghost Rider movies, but those really failed. And yeah, I will likely possibly do reviews on them, but they're not going to be, well, good reviews. But you get my point. But now, yeah, for all of you that don't know, I have heard of Blade now going to be in the MCU and is getting his own MCU movie, or reboot. Now, my thoughts are, please, Disney, I'm specifically talking to you, Disney, if you're listening to this. Do not make Blade family friendly or light PG-13. Because if they do, I will rage. Because here's the thing. Blade is never made for kids. He never was. He was one of the few Marvel characters that was never made for children, period. Like, there's a reason why these three movies were rated R. Because the comics were rated R, and the comics were violent. And that made it work. Like, same goes for The Punisher and Daredevil. Even they weren't made for kids. And that's why their Netflix shows were very violent. That's why Netflix shows were more adult and aimed for adult audiences. But then, of course, Disney went and shut down their shows. But I'm not going to rage on about that stuff. I just want to get back to Blade. Now, how is it? It's just a great film, and it's got a great. Sure, there are maybe some confusing CGI moments at times, but I can look past that stuff. But I just consider Blade a good movie, and it's actually one of my favorite movies of all time. It's one of my favorite comic book movies of all time. If you have not seen Blade yet, if you have not seen Blade yet, I'd give it a watch. Oh, unless you're a kid, unless you're like under 17, then no, definitely can watch Blade when you're older, because it's way too adult and dark and violent if you're under 17. But despite that, if you're around that age, give it a watch. So how would I rank? I am going to give Blade a 9 out of 10. And if you're wondering how I would rank the sequels, well, I would rank Blade 2 as 7 out of 10, and rank Blade Trinity a 3 out of 10. So yeah, anyway, that'll be it for my Blade review. And, well, so you're all wondering, what am I going to be reviewing next? Well, here's what I'm going to be reviewing yet another Saw movie. And that's going to be for the first sequel, Saw 2. Yeah. So that will be episode 16. Anyway, and then episode 17 will be Evil Dead 2. Which I cannot wait to talk about because that is my all-time favorite horror sequel. But anyway, that'll be it for this review, guys. Thank y'all for watching. And if you like this and want to see more, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Movie Lover 120.